Right, let's just empty out our DB up here. So let's go clear, delete all documents. Yes, so it's a clean database again, no collections. So we're back to square one. And in our code here, we're just gonna switch up a little bit. So right now we don't want to create a collection called reptiles, because that's really not what we want. We want to call countries, right? That's what we have here. So we want to do the same thing here. So we can remove reptiles and the other part that I can't remember. So we only still consist of having the countries up here. And in our firestore, we don't want to call this reptiles. We also want to call this countries. There we go. Like this. And this is what we want for now in this part. We don't really need the methods as well, so we can delete all of the methods that we created before, because we don't want them anymore or use them. And we can just quickly remove the button as well at the top. So sort of back to square one before everything, right? But what we want to do down here is in our created is I just want to run this information here once. So all the information that I get passed through with my JSON files, where did it go? It's somewhere now, I can't find it. There we go. My JSON file, I just want to grab the information here, and for each item, I want them to send them to Google Firestore. So very similar to what I just showed you here with once I click the button, we fire something and then it goes. But I don't really need a button, I just want to do a refresh for the page once, and then it's going to send all the information up to the cloud store here. So that's what we're going to do. Right, so let's look into how we can do this. Right now, when we get our information from our JSON array here, we're just going to reuse this basically. So once the page load information we get, we're going to pass that or add that to Firebase. So let's just do an add to Firebase here. Firebase. So add to Firebase. And what we're going to do now is we're going to grab this countries like we have before, because now we have information stored in it because of this, right? So we have all the countries here now. And what we're going to do, we're going to do it for each like so. And then we're going to use the parameter, let's not do parameter, let's do this here. We're going to store the data inside the country in this here for each country. And we do our function here, so make sure you open or close your bracket here, curly brackets. And inside this, for each country, again, you name this whatever you want, item if you want to. For each country there is, in our array of countries, we're going to send them to database individually. So they're being passed into a collection. So we can't just upload the pure JSON file from this part here, because it's not really structured well for straight up conversion to cloud-based, because it's not in a collection. So each country is kind of its own object, and that's not really optimal. So that's why we're doing it this way. Anyways, back to this. So for each of these, we're going to pass them up to Firestore, and we're going to use this keyword and then Firestore like this. And these is not something I imagine up. These you can find on the Google Docs for Firestore, how to do this. And for each Firestore, we want to use push in the countries here, and then we want to add for each individual one the country code here, right? So the country information. So basically, this here is grabbing the information, and for each of these it's storing them in country, and then it's passing each of these or adding each of these countries to the Firestore. So let's click save, and if you have your Firebase open here and your normal page here, once you hit refresh, you go back to VueJS DB. Maybe it's already doing it. I think I saw something over here like running. And if I refresh this now on my Firestore, you should see collections here. So collection, and you can see it actually continuously to add more. So it's adding all the countries now into our Firestore, so we don't have to do it individually. We're just making the system do it for us. Much better, right? And once it's done, look, like 238 of these implementations. Just quickly, if you want to check, does it actually still fit? So Europe, some country named Harald is probably Sweden. I don't want to go too bad. Svalbard, Nordic countries. But yeah, so now you can see all the information is stored here. And let's go back to our code here and let's switch it up. So in the next video, we're going to switch out our normal SQL database into our cloud store database.